Hey runners, happy Sunday. It's November 20th. Uh, I'm here to report on my half marathon that I did yesterday, the Gilbert Half Marathon. So happy weekend to everyone. We've got Thanksgiving holiday coming up next week, and I know there's some races over the weekend and some upcoming turkey trots. So this time of the year is it's always fun for us because the weather is nice and cool, and we have some races that we can do. So, anyways, welcome to my channel. If you're new, my name is Pete. I am a runner and coach, and just talk about running here, my training, my runs, and yeah. So let's kind of kick things off here. So, for those of you who may not know that I was training for a half marathon, the Gilbert half marathon. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and Gilbert is a city part of Phoenix. It's about 20 miles east of us where the race took place. And I started my training 12 weeks ago. So about 3 months. What's that, August? The end of August that I started training. And it definitely wasn't my ideal training block, as those of you who've been watching the channel for a while. Like I mentioned before, with some of the injuries and some medical tests just to rule things out, which everything is okay. Um, that was a little bit of a scare, so I really wasn't able to train like I wanted to for really a good portion of the block. So it was interesting going into the race how I would do. I had an idea, but I wasn't quite sure. You never really know until you actually, um, you know, when the gun goes off and you start racing, then you have an idea, how the body's going to react in those conditions. So, just to give you a little bit of, I guess, backstory on my mileage. I added up my mileage here for 12 weeks, and it was pretty low. It's a half marathon, so I'm not running tons of miles, but definitely more than I ran. So my first couple of weeks I was averaging in the mid to upper 20s, and I think I got up to like 30 miles the second week. And then after that, it just kind of tailed off a little bit, like as I mentioned before, as to why. So I ran 255 miles in 12 weeks. Not a lot of mileage. I believe that came out to 21.25 miles. So, and that was over, on average, like 4 days. I think I was doing 5 days a week for a little bit, and then it went to 4 days a week. So not a lot of miles. A lot of it was half or on the weekend with my long runs, which I got up to 10 and a half miles, and I did 10 miles twice. So 10, 10, and 10 and a half. So it's going to be interesting, right? When I was starting to taper, it seems like the whole training was tapered from from like midway through on. I was curious to see how I would perform. Gilbert Half Marathon, by the way, this course I've never run before, and it's a brand new course. Gilbert has a parade on this day, and traditionally the races they have a 10K, I believe a 5K as well, and a half marathon. So 5K, 10K, and a half marathon, all taking place finishing where there's a parade to celebrate Gilbert Days. And I guess it's Gilbert Days is just I'm not sure really what it is, but I think it's just to kind of commemorate the city, and they have all kind of fun things for the family. So traditionally, we would finish our races. All the races would finish along the parade route. So you're finishing along like people who are part of the parade. Kind of cool in a sense. There's a lot of people there, but also a lot of chaos, and really hard to find parking if you're spectating. So this year they moved it, I think because of that, in part with all the traffic congestion. The course, I ran it about 4 weeks ago, part of it, nothing exciting really. Just your straight city course with some canal type running. and I knew what to expect a little bit. So I'll just kind of take you through what I ran in the race and tell you my finishing time and the kind of surprise with the race in itself. So, my goal or target going into this race, I thought maybe I would start out at an 8:55 pace for the first 3 miles, and then drop it to 8:50 for the next 3 miles, and then an 8:45 for the next 3 miles. So after 9 miles, I would average an 8:50 pace. And then miles 10 and 11, I would drop it down to what, 8, 55, 50, 40, 40, 840, and then the next 2 miles, drop it down a little bit quicker. That's always easier said than done, right? Um, I felt good early on, although I will say the first quarter mile. So I was racing in the Saucony Endorphin Pros version 1, which I've had for a little bit. I like the shoe. It doesn't have the most cushion, but it's a racing shoe, and carbon plated and all. And I have little issues with my foot needing cushion and all. So I brought along the Fuel Cell Rebel shoes as well on race day, and it's kind of a game time decision, if you will. I thought it was a mistake when I took off. I could feel a little soreness in my foot and thought, oof, did I make the wrong choice in the shoe? But as the race went on, it wasn't an issue. And I kind of settled in. I started out looking at my pace here. I did a 8:50, 8:51 for the first mile. The weather, by the way, was fantastic. It was probably about 40 degrees. I didn't feel as cold as I thought I would. I had some gloves on and a hat and short sleeve shorts. Perfect. So my first mile was about 8:51 and 8:48. For second mile, 8:45. My 5K split was, or time was 27:12. So I was like, oh, this is good. I'm averaging, what is that, about an 8:47 pace or so. I think this is good. And I felt good, but I didn't feel like I normally do with a full training block. So all things considered, I felt pretty good. Then after mile 3, miles 4, 5, and 6 was 8:46, 8:43, 8:42. Now I did look at my watch quite a bit, more so than I probably wanted to, but I was just trying to get dialed in and make sure that I wasn't going too fast or too slow. So after the 10K mark, I believe my watch said 54:08. So I was a tad bit quicker, which I intended to be for that 10K. But I knew that the course would probably be long today because we were hitting the splits, like on the 5K and 10K. We got there later than what the watch had already beeped at for the 5K and 10K. So not always, but today happened to be that. So after that 6 mile, mile 7, 8, 9, I ran 8:44, 8:45. I'm sorry, 8:44, 8:44, 8:45, like dead on, and I still felt pretty good. Mile 10 was 8:46, and after that is when and then mile 11 was 8:54. So as you can tell, at mile 11 I was slowing down a little bit, but I was really starting to feel it. Now part of the course, and most of it is on road, and then it goes on to this like path, a canal path, but part of it is on sidewalk, and then part of it is on a dirt path. Wearing the Endorphin Pros, like on the gravel, dirt, the footing at first I was being cautious about, but then I was fine. It wasn't too bad out there, but I felt good. Really, I felt pretty good through 9 miles, and then 10th mile I started to feel a little bit, but I still got an 8:46 as mentioned. It was mile 11, I ran an 8:54, and I was starting to really feel something starting to happen. And then mile 12 was a 9:08, so 14 seconds slower. I thought I could hold that pace for mile 13, but I dropped to 9:20 pace, and I would say for that last mile, you ever have it when you're racing and you think you're going faster than what your pace, your watch says? That's exactly how I felt. I just felt like I was in quicksand, like I was trying to turn over and I couldn't. And it was starting to hurt a little bit. So I hit the 13, and I knew, by the way, um, with a couple miles to go, that this was going to be long. And I believe with about a half a mile or so, the race should have almost been over by then. And so I looked at my watch, and my goal is always try to get under two. And I knew I would get under two, but it might be close depending how long this thing is. So when I got to the final left turn for the straightaway, which was probably about a quarter mile or a little bit more. Yeah, probably about 3/10 of a mile. Then I started to actually pick it up a little bit, and I saw my wife who was taking pictures and videos, and I was doing it said a 7:39 pace for the last 0.34. So I'm like, wow, okay, and I felt pretty good. My overall time was 1:57:36. Now that's slower than anticipated. The distance ended up being on my watch 13.34. Now I understand with Garmin or any GPS watch, mine's a Garmin. There's going to be some discrepancies. Not everyone's going to get the same distance. I get that, but I feel that I'm a pretty good runner when it comes to running the tangents. Staying as close to that line, wherever that line is that's been measured. If you got a turn coming up, going to the left, not staying on the far outside, but staying as inside as possible around the turns, and just anticipating that so you're not running more than you have to. Most of the times in a half marathon, if it's not 13.1, it might be 13.12, 13.15, maybe even 13.2. But this was considerably long, and a lot of other runners that I spoke with also had the same issue. Even some of the pacers, when they finished, like the 2-hour group, they were over. 150 group was over. And looking at splits at like the 10-mile split and 10K, a lot of these runners had slowed down quite a bit. Coincidence? Yeah, it is what it is. So whenever that happens, I accept the time, but I also look at what I was running for pace. And my pace would have put me at a 850 pace would have put me at 155.47. So definitely slower than what I've done in the past on average, but it would have been a little bit quicker. The overall takeaway from this, I'm very happy with how I ran the race for a good 11 miles of it. So majority of it, and for the training that I had. Just averaging just over 21 miles per week isn't a lot of miles, and I know that, but considering kind of what I had to do and I was able to race, I'm thankful for. So I was happy with it. It was a good race, and sure it was a little bit long, but I didn't let that get too much into my head for long. So yeah, I was excited, and I'm a little bit sore. I think I've got some issues on my hip that kind of affects that left side and then my right foot. So I got to work on strength training, and there's a couple things that I'm going to be working on for the remainder of the year, and then as we go into 2023, that I want to make changes on, and look forward to running and racing even better. What's next for us? We are going to be doing it's a turkey trot, but more of a fun run for my wife's co-worker that's putting this run together. It's to help the needy, the homeless. We'll be donating some non-perishable goods and going out for a 5K. It's not really a racing event. It's more everybody get together, help support the community, and just be out there running, for fun. So it's good timing, because coming off this race, even though it's just the half marathon, you're still tearing up a lot of muscle fibers, and I typically don't run for about 5 to 7 days after a half, so that'll be good to have that type of run. And Then I've got a 5K coming up. I want to say it is December, the second week of December. It's a 5K, and it's just a very casual. I mean, it's put on by a local running company, so I'll run that as as good as I can. Um, and then we'll look to next year. I've got a couple things that I'm looking at racing, and see what happens. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry for the long-winded video here, but I wish everybody a safe, happy Thanksgiving holiday. If you're traveling or having loved ones come in, safe travels to everyone out there. And I will try to put a video together sometime during that Thanksgiving weekend. And as always, appreciate you watching to the very end, and have a safe weekend. Take care. Bye.